let's kick off Pro Soccer Talk this week with our first big segment. And that's a preview of the Championship playoff final. Coventry City against Luton Town, Andy. One of these teams will be in the Premier League next season and joining Burnley and Sheffield United, who were promoted automatically back to the top flight. Now, this game, as we know, is called the richest game in the world. It's taking place at Wembley. There'll be a crowd of close to 90,000 for this one on Saturday, May 27th. And it's estimated it's around $200 million. It's kind of what it's worth to these teams that they're promoted over the parachute payments and everything else. And I was doing some research. 5 years ago, Coventry City against Luton Town was a game in League Two, in the fourth tier of English football. And the crowd that day at the Ricoh Arena, as it was called then, Coventry's home stadium, was 8,863, and it was a 2-2 draw. So there are still some players left on those teams who have made the dramatic rise through the divisions. But it's pretty cool, right, to see these two teams, different journeys. They've had a lot of upheaval, a lot of disappointments financially as well. Luton going out of the Football League and coming back into it. And Coventry, stadium moves, not playing in their own stadium for years. It's crazy to see they've kind of gone on this tumultuous journey together. And now they're both 90 minutes away from being in the, most lucrative, most watched league in the world. So this is going to be fun to watch this one at Wembley.
Yeah, it is what is so awesome about the English football system and the fact that you have the pyramid and you can have stories like this. Now, obviously, that lends itself to the opposite side as well, where clubs just fall like a sinking rock, and they will find themselves in a situation like Coventry were in just a few years ago, like Luton have been in as well. And so to have the opportunity to rise back up through the leagues and do it on merit as well, you earn it on the field. That's the great thing. And to have this kind of showpiece opportunity, this one game at Wembley every year, whether you care about the championship or have watched 0 minutes or every game of the championship all season long, it's worth watching because of how much is on the line, because of just the intensity of that game and the nerves and the spectacle of it all, having it at Wembley and everything. And you mentioned the stories of these two teams and kind of rising up over a number of years. They did it this year as well. I just looked up. At the beginning of the season, Coventry, 11th best odds to be promoted to the Premier League. Luton, 14th best odds. So these were two expected to be very, very mid-table teams going into the championship season. And now, with one game left, they're the only two remaining for that final spot in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's amazing, to be honest. Because you think about Luton, they lost their manager, Nathan Jones, who'd overseen a lot of that rise up through the divisions over the years. And he obviously left to Southampton. That didn't work out. But then Rob Edwards came in and took them to a whole new level. And I mean, they only just missed out on automatic promotion in the end, given their great finish to the season. So Luton, I mean, their ground is amazing. Kenilworth Road, that's the famous ground where the away section, you legitimately walk next to someone's house through their back garden and up through a couple of staircases to get into the away end. So check that out online. That's incredible. And then there's a US connection there. Ethan Horvath, the goalkeeper, is on loan at Luton from Nottingham Forest. So with our American hats on, we hope that he pulls it off and is playing in the Premier League next season. But I mentioned Coventry's issues as well. I mean, this is a team, Mark Robbins has been the manager there throughout the entire time they've come up through the leagues. They have a real identity, but they've been in crisis for many, many years. I mean, they are a team that had to play home games at Northampton Town and Birmingham City. They didn't even have their own home stadium for most of the last few years. Now they are back at that. They've had a new ownership come in. There were still some issues at the start of this season with their stadium being used in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and then it wasn't ready for the start of the season. And then that's why they started off so slowly. But they stuck with Mark Robbins. They've risen up and they've timed their run to just sneak into the playoffs perfectly. And they both have some great players as well. And I want to mention Coventry, last in the Premier League in 2001. I watched them a lot when I was growing up as a kid. But that's over 2 decades they haven't been back in the top flight. And Luton were last in the top flight in 1992, so the year before the Premier League was formed. So, again, this is really fun to see two teams we haven't seen in the Premier League at all, or for a long, long time. And it will just freshen things up, right? So is there any team you prefer to come up, or what's your kind of prediction? Because if we're looking at these two teams, it's a tale of two strikers pretty much, right? There's some great players, they're great team units and team spirit, and that's why they've got to where they have got to. But if we look at Palmer for Luton and then Victor Gyökeres for Coventry, those are the two main men who basically their Premier League hopes rest on their shoulders.
Yeah, it's one of those matchups you feel like you can't go wrong with either one because they're both going to add something very unique. But I think from a competitive perspective and also just the narrative, Coventry being as big of a club as it is and having the history that it does, I think it's got a bit of a Leeds vibe to it. And we made so much of Leeds a couple of years ago when they came back up to the Premier League and they won promotion. And so I think that would be a really interesting storyline going into next season. And they've got a massive stadium as well. And so like that is a place that a lot of clubs are not going to want to go and have to play there if they're in the Premier League. And they'll upset a couple of bigger sides that you wouldn't expect them to do next season, probably if they manage to come up. So it's going to be interesting that both teams they drew both games during the league season, 1-1 and 2-2. So there's not a lot between these two teams. They finished just a couple points apart in the table. It probably will be a cagey affair, as cup finals or promotion finals always tend to be. And so may the best team win.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I think whether it is Coventry, the Sky Blues, or Luton Town, the Hatters coming up, I don't think we can lose either way because we're going to see a new fun team, a new storyline, and some really great behind-the-scenes stories as well, like I said, with the journeys they've been on and just the unity the whole clubs and teams seem to have there after so many tumultuous years. They figured it out. And I think, like you mentioned at the start, it's the great thing about the English Football League that if you get it right and get the recruitment right and get the right coaching, right structure, we've seen it so often with so many teams rising up, getting back-to-back promotions and just feeding off the momentum. Something special can happen. And something special will be happening at Wembley this Saturday. Championship player final, the richest game in the sport. Let's see who's going to come up to the Premier League for next season, Coventry or Luton Town. And at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com, we keep you updated of all the latest information, highlights, preview, analysis as the final team for next season in the Premier League coming up will be decided at Wembley.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.